Welcome to the Interstitial Cystitis IC, BPS, and Mental Health webinar. My name is Lee Lowry, and I am the Executive Director for the Interstitial Cystitis Association. Thank you so much for joining us today. Before we get started, I'd like to share a little bit about the Interstitial Cystitis Association. Also known as ICA, we are the only nonprofit charitable organization dedicated solely to improving the quality of healthcare and lives of people living with interstitial cystitis. The ICA update is published 3 times per year and is a benefit for donors who give $50 or more annually. I'm going to stop here just for a second so that we can take the slides right. Thank you. We also archive back issues on the website and provide access depending upon annual donation level. We invite you to join IC patients across the country during September 20th to the 24th for a free virtual week-long event filled with new information from top IC clinicians, self-care tips, and daily challenges. Registration is easy. There's a link on this slide. And you can also find one on the Walks and Fundraising page on the ichelp.org website. Next slide. Join us on September 30th as we interview Ingrid Harm Hernandez, author of The Musculoskeletal Mystery. The book is a collection of information designed to help you feel less alone. It contains information that can change people's lives, information aligned with the most current science and illuminated by the stories of real patients. Armed with the knowledge in this book, Ingrid's patients have gained a growing understanding of their pelvic floor, pelvis, and beyond, and this has transformed their relationship with their own bodies. Ingrid's pelvic physical therapy patients inspire her with their progress every day, and she hopes that by sharing this information, it will empower you to participate in your own healing journey to reach for and achieve your body's own unique potential. The registration link is included on this image, but we will also share it with you following today's webinar. IC board members are stepping up for IC BPS. ICA board member Claudia King, who's pictured here on the right, is going to be participating in a half marathon on September 18th. And Dr. Laura Santuri, our vice chair, is pictured here on the left, is going to be participating in a 2-day, 100-mile ultra run next month. Both will be raising awareness and funds to support the ICBPS community. You can follow their journeys and support their efforts at the links above. If you want to learn more about doing a fundraiser your own way, you can find out how in the Walks and Fundraising section of our website, at the link that's called Community Fundraising Your Way. Again, we'll provide all of this as a follow-up to today's webinar. Following are some more really great resources that the ICA is able to provide for free to the ICBPS community because of the generous support of our donors. We have the ICA e-news, which is a free bi-weekly electronic e-newsletter with more than 45,000 subscribers. We have our website, www.ichelp.org, which has a wealth of free information and tools, including our ICA healthcare provider registry and IC support group listings. ICA has a Facebook support group for the interstitial cystitis bladder pain syndrome community, and it's an engaged group of over 2,500 users who are looking for a place to connect with others who are living with ICBPS and their loved ones. We also have an online support community that is provided by Inspire. It is a safe, peer-to-peer moderated forum that currently connects more than 25,000 people experiencing similar symptoms, situations, and experiences. And finally, if you haven't already, you can check out ICA's social media channels, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. You can get support and discuss challenges of living with IC. Okay, now let's get started with today's webinar. I'm excited to present to you our speaker today, Tacha Kasper, who has been an IC patient for 16 years and who has been advocating for mental health within the ICBPS community. She has also volunteered her support with the ICA in numerous ways, and we appreciate Tasha's offer to speak with you today on this important topic of ICBPS and mental health. So Tasha, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you, Lee, and everything to the ICA. You guys have been immeasurable in my journey with resources and help throughout all the years. So thank you for all that you and the ICA does for all of us. And I'm really excited to have this conversation about mental health. It is so important and it impacts all of us along our journey and not often talked about. So we are going to dive right in. So here I am, in the middle of the day, and I am curled up in a ball, tears rolling down my face, and I am hiding underneath my desk. My desk actually had like the full panel that would go all the way down, and I had the greatest assistant who would cover for me when I was hiding under the desk. So between going to the bathroom every 15 or 20 minutes and trying to get my work done, to push through the day, to push through the pain, and when it would get too bad, here I am under the desk, crying, scared to death, in so much pain. I have no idea what the future holds for me. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job and my financial security. I have no idea how to manage this pain. I have no idea exactly what's causing it yet, and how to get any relief. I want to crawl out of my skin. It's just so bad. And so this place under my desk was my refuge, was what allowed me to keep my sanity for a little while. It didn't last forever, as you can imagine. And so I think it's just a part of us, that fear, that isolation, that not knowing is so devastating, not just physically, but more importantly, emotionally and mentally. It took everything out of me, everything, and it affects every stitch of our being. I know for a fact you are all fierce warriors already. You've made it so far. And even if this is just the beginning of your journey, you're still so strong, so worthy, and you are not crazy. None of us are crazy. We're experiencing this incredible pain in the core of our womanhood. We all want to heal and thrive. That is at the core of all of us. So what are those parts of healing and thriving? We all want less pain. We all want less mental distress. We all want to feel connected and significant and safe. And we want to be able to live fully, to have our identity back, and to be able to do things in a manner that bring us joy, and to learn how to control our pain. So how do we get there when we are feeling stuck and hopeless and overwhelmed, when we don't know how to cope with the pain and the fatigue, and we have all these different doctor's appointments and we're trying to figure everything out, and we are worried and anxious and fearful of what the future is going to look like? Do I have to live with this forever? How can I live with this forever? what am I and my family going to do if I have to live with this forever? All this anxiety and fear of the future, along with feelings of isolation, losing our friends, not being invited to things, painsomnia and sleep deprivation, feeling sadness, depressed, all the relationship issues that are affected, our body image, our self-image, our intimacy and sexuality gets affected. All of these things, this grieving, who am I now if I can't do the things that I have been doing, and grieving the dreams that I had for the future. Because again, what's this future going to look like? So how do we get there when there's this litany of a list? And that's just not addressing all the physical part. That's just the emotional part. So it is really important that we have something effective to get us through, because we need that. So here's what we need to get us to where we want to go. Imagine a car, and that you knew nothing about cars, and you had traveled to a foreign land where you didn't know the language and you didn't know the terrain, and you've never driven a car, you don't know anything about the cars, and there's no manual. To me, this is what getting diagnosed with this illness is, right? It's just, we don't know how to do anything, right? It's like almost like welcome to Mars. And so what would life look like? What do we need? We need a guide, a map, a manual, and some help. That would be very helpful and would help us get a long way and help us get out of where we are. So what I've learned is that it is not just necessary, but it is okay to need help and support for your mental and emotional health. It will help you with your healing, and it is greatly important to how the future is going to look, that you do have some control over it, and you will not feel so alone and overwhelmed. Part of our society teaches us that, you know, pull your britches up, pull your big girl panties up, just do it. And that somehow we have to figure it out all alone and just handle it. And that's not the truth. That is not what is most beneficiary to us. And so sometimes this can make us feel that our pain and our reality and what we're going through, there's a lot of stigma about it. There is a feeling that we're being dismissed, that nobody's really taking us seriously, or they're demeaning and telling us that what we are feeling is just, it's not real. And so we get demeaned that way, right? And our feelings get demeaned that way. And so that all goes towards this feeling of feeling stuck and helpless and very, very alone. There is a difference between the parts of the brain that we use to survive, that we go into survival mode, versus when we need to thrive. They are very different. And in my journey, not only have I had my IC journey, but about 6 years ago, I got diagnosed with a rare form of breast cancer and had to go through another very dark battle. And this time I knew more. This time I knew, oh, okay, my brain is going to go into survival mode. I know how to do that. I can survive. I can tread water. I can keep my head just above. But that doesn't mean I'm living. That doesn't mean I'm enjoying life. That doesn't mean I'm thriving by any means. It just means I'm barely keeping my head above the water. That's all that survival is. So what I want is, I want for all of us to learn and to get the tools and the mindset and the skill set so that we can thrive. Because resilience is not something that you either have it or you don't, like you're born with it or not. No, these are things that can be taught and can be learned and can be applied to anyone and make a huge difference in your life and how you experience your pain and how your pain affects your life and how much pain you have and how to cope with it. I see in pelvic pain is very, very real. There is a medical component to it that must be addressed, must be assessed, and you must work with the doctors and create a multi-dimensional, multifactorial healing team is what I like to call it, so that you have all the different aspects. Like, I think figuring it out is like untangling a necklace that has been knotted up. And so you have to figure out all the different pieces. And pain is also experienced through our brain, and we can influence it. Now, that doesn't mean that it's all magically in our head and we can just wish it away and it's going to magically go away. That's not the case. Some people are out there right now saying that, things like IC and pelvic pain are all repressed anger. I don't believe that. I do believe that there is a mental health component and that our brain, with neuroscience, we can affect and influence our pain, but that I believe that there is the medical component that is the grounding of IC and pelvic pain. And we know that it goes through our head, because guess what? We're not a bunch of floating heads, nor are we seeing a bunch of headless bodies walking around. Our body and our mind and our head are all connected together. So of course, our pain has to go through our brain. And so we want to biohack and hijack the nervous system so that it starts working in our favor instead of just running amok and doing whatever it wants. Like an untrained puppy is how I give the analogy, is that unless we go in and do some of this mental work, literally our brain is like an untrained puppy, and it's going to do what it wants and chew up the whatever it wants, and it's going to cause a lot of destruction. But we can train it, and then it can be the most amazing thing. So don't think that you can't influence your pain and how you experience it and how you cope with it. The answer, the complete answer, is that we want an integrated approach to your healing, that you are leveraging your strengths, that you are learning new skills, that you are looking for solutions, and that you are getting the help in all the different avenues, right? Your mind, your body, your spirit, your soul, all of these are affected, and that you are looking for a fully integrated whole person response and plan to manage all of your pain. This is really important to your overall healing and your overall quality of life. So even the American Urological Association, in their guidelines, the very first thing that we should be doing to help us with our IC and pelvic pain is general relaxation and stress management, pain management, patient education, which I believe should include mental and emotional education, not just body part education, and self-care, behavioral modification. Now, behavior modification is often, right, cognitive behavioral therapy and therapy. I wish that the languaging that they used would be more clear to include your mental and emotional health. But But that is what they're saying here, because if you go to therapy, if you work with a chronic pain or life coach who is skilled in this, they're going to teach you relaxation methods. They're going to teach you chronic stress management. They're going to teach you about how your brain and the neuroscience and your system, just the mammal part of you, so that you can know the difference between, oh, that's the mammal part of my body, and this is the illness part of my body, and somewhere in there is the rest of me. And also how to have self-care and this, behavioral and cognitive modification. It's very easy for our brain, that untrained puppy, to run amok with so many different things that are not helpful. And it makes how we experience life, our fear, our anxiety, our depression, our sadness, our overwhelm, it makes it, to many points, unbearable. And that's what we want to move back from. So one of the first things to know is that our system, right, is ruled by our brain. And the very core of our brain, right, our caveman, cavewoman, reptilian part of our brain is in charge of access to all of our brain. And so it is on guard. And if it feels pain or if it thinks that is under threat, then it is going to shut some things down and do some things that aren't helpful for us. So the most important thing is that with pain, with chronic pain, our entire system gets upregulated, becomes hypervigilant, so constantly scanning, because it's getting that pain signal all the time. So we want to try to get to working with our nervous system so that we can get that to calm down. And once we get that to calm down a little bit, then we can get out of this stress response, this trauma response, which is the 5S, the 5 Fs that mess with your system. So some you've probably heard of, maybe a few you haven't. So fight or flight, right? I'm either going to run away or I'm going to kill the lion. The other third one is freeze. I'm going to just stop in motion and freeze, and everything, my brain shuts down. I can't think straight and I'm just frozen. Fourth one is I flop, right? Play dead. If I play dead, then hopefully this tiger that's trying to kill me isn't going to kill me. So try to run away from it, try to kill it. I freeze, then I play dead. If I don't play dead, then the last one is called fawn or appease. And that is where we go into people-pleasing mode and lion-pleasing mode in this particular analogy. So if you've, we're trying to say, here, kitty, kitty, if I'm nice to you, if I'm kind to you, then you will not kill me. And that's where people-pleasing comes from. And so a lot of this can be tracked back to our childhood, to our orientation of life, to intergenerational trauma. There's a lot of reasons why this can be overactive or super hypervigilant, other than just pain. But we do know that if you've had issues in your childhood, whether it was neglect or trauma, that you are more susceptible to have chronic illness, cancer, diabetes, heart disease, all of these things. So it's important to know that there's this mental component that runs underneath all of this, and it can really mess with your system. And we want to acknowledge that we can work with this part of our brain, but it's very finicky. So we have to approach it in a right way. Otherwise, it's not going to do what we want it to do. So now we are going to kick into some tools that are like your first line of defense. And the acronym for TAME, right? TAME is what we're going to be doing. So taming your pain. This is just very basic things that you can start doing today, right away. And again, there's a lot more to the mental and emotional health, a lot more tactics, a lot more mindset changes, but this gets you going in the right direction. This will begin to get your 5 F's to calm down so that your system calms down. And when your system calms down, you will have reduced pain. Because when our system is upregulated, when we're in a stress response, it releases hormones which cause inflammation, which we all know inflammation is a bear, and the inflammation causes more pain, which causes more stress. And so that cycle goes through. So we want to stop and learn how to tame our pain. So the first thing that we're going to do is in the tame is to tune in. You're going to tune in to 2 things, your body and your mind. What is going on? I'm just going to stop, take a breath, and tune in to truly know what is going on in my body. Oftentimes, I liken it to if a mom is washing dishes and a little child is pulling at her skirt and says, "Mama, Mama, I want your attention." If mom doesn't turn around right away, what's the child going to do? They're going to throw a tantrum and get really loud. Our pain is the same way. So take a moment, do a body scan. I encourage you to put your hands on exactly where you feel the most pain, and it might move. Pain refers, so it's really wonky. We might feel, okay, everything hurts between my belly button and my knees. And then as you start putting your hands on it and breathing and paying attention to where it is, it might be, okay, no, it's louder in my back right now. Oh, okay, no, it's more over here to the right side of the hip. So this allows you to tune in physically to where the pain is instead of just having this global pain signal. And then also the mind. What is your mind saying to you about the pain? Is it catastrophizing, meaning this pain is never going to go away, it's getting worse, it's going on and on? Are you ruminating about it, right? You're just sitting and spinning and be like, I can't believe I'm in pain. This is so painful. And just thinking over and over again about it. Do you have a negative mental filter about your pain? Are you shaming yourself? All of these things, and just so many more that we can break down. But just what am I thinking? What am I thinking, and what am I telling myself? And what are my beliefs about myself in this moment of pain? And now we'll go through the next one. But what we're wanting here is to tune in is to find out what your heart is and what your mind is, and kind of take the mind and not have it be in charge for a little while, and let your heart be in charge, and just feel with your body, get in tune with your body, use breath work, tune in to what is going on in your mind and in your heart and in your body. The next is to attend. So TA, right? You are going to attend. What do I need for my body, for my brain? The most important thing that we can do in our healing journey is to learn how to know what our body wants and needs, and give it what it wants and needs when it wants and needs it. We usually aren't very good. My type A perfectionist stuff was, if I did finally figure out what was going on with my body, then I'd be like, well, I'll do it later. I'm in pain now, but when I finish this project, when I'm done with dinner, when I feed the kids, when, at some point in the future, then I'll deal with my body. And again, that makes our pain increase. So You're going to attend to yourself. I encourage and teach people how to have a pain protocol. What do I do at each level? How do I know the difference between, for instance, a 5 and a 6? How do I stop a flare from coming on? Right? That's the ideal. And so you're going to do your pain protocol for your mind, right? You're going to do your pain protocol for your body and put things into action, into motion to attend to your body for what it needs right now in the moment, not in the future, not in the past, right here today. Okay, now we are on M, T-A-M, right? A part of tame. And this one is that we are going to have mindful self-compassion. And this is about showing yourself grace. So you've tuned in, you've attended to your mind and your body, and now you're going to show yourself grace. You're going to stop with the self-judgment. You're going to stop with the self-shaming, and you're going to show yourself compassion and grace the way you would to a friend or to your children or to a family member. I know it's not always easy. And so you are going to do this again. There's your mind and your body, two components to this. And the first part is going to be just your consciousness and connectedness to a higher power, to all of the other people in the world, to know that you are not alone in your suffering, that this is just common humanity, that pain is a part of being human. We are having some extra pain, but that you're not alone in this concept of suffering and pain. Then you're also going to start doing some stress management techniques, some breathing techniques, and that you are going to be mindful in the moment. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean meditation, although meditation is great, but we want to make sure that you are just being mindful, self-compassionate, showing yourself grace, and just being kind to yourself during this time, because beating yourself up, it's never worked for me. I don't know about you, but it's never worked for me. So this is a better way of like, okay, I'm friending my body. I'm learning to accept what is going on in my body, because I believe if we are at war or if we hate any part of our body, then we're not going to be able to align and attend and be compassionate and graceful with it. And we are no different than plants. 6th grade science teaches us, if I speak mean to a plant or I speak nicely to a plant, the one that I speak nice to is going to grow. The one that is speaking mean to is not going to grow. So in this moment, I give myself as much love as I would give a plant, right? Just a baseline, just to get us going. I think the answer is generally yes. We are at E, T-A-M-E. E is for empower. And this is where you get to activate. You get to summon your inner fierceness. You get to be creative in how things look. And maybe they don't look like they used to. Maybe you can't go to that particular restaurant. So use your creativity. It's not an all or nothing world. We tend to treat it, well, if it doesn't look how I used to do it, or if I can't do it this way, then that, it can't be done. But that's not the truth. There's so many ways that it can be done. And so I encourage everybody to empower themselves and use your creativity and your imagination to be like, okay, well, how can it look? We've learned this with the pandemic. Life can look very, very different. We don't have to be commuting to work and, on that hamster wheel of the freeway. You can work from home. Whole world learned this in a matter of a few weeks and months. So this is a big part to the tame, right? So in that moment, what can I do? What can I do that brings joy to me in the moment. For me, if I'm stuck in a really bad flare in bed, I'm going to put on my favorite songs. I have specific playlists for different moods that I'm in. I'm going to listen to books on Audible. I'm going to watch a favorite TV show. And although I'm in pain, I'm going to try to do something that brings me a little bit of joy. Also, right, other techniques of visualization. And here's the thing, we get to choose, right? Both fear and hope are future imagination. We don't know what's going to happen in the future, right? I can have fear because I don't know what's going to happen, or I can have hope. It's about 50-50. None of us have a guarantee. So in my world, I used to choose fear. Now I've learned, you know what? I'm going to choose hope because it's a 50-50 shot. So if I'm making it up in my mind, well, I might as well use positive things and choose hope and move towards that area. We know, right? Law of attraction. It's going to move that area. This isn't toxic positivity. This is just, you know what? I'm going to choose that. Even if now I've had IC for 16 years and counting. And during that time, medications have come and gone, new treatments, new things. So I always have hope that new research is coming out, new medications, new cures, possibly. All these different things to me are possible because I know that they're working on. And over the past 16 years, I've pretty much had every single, almost other than removing my bladder, every single treatment or medication that someone with IC can have. And I've been very pleased as the time has gone on to be like, oh, at these moments of complete despair, my doctors come and say, oh, well, there's this new thing and da 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 da. And, you know, do you want to try that? Heck yeah, let's go. And they've worked. Not all of them, but the majority of them worked. So having hope that things will get better, because if I sit in my mind and just say, you know what, I am going to live like this forever. I will always be like this, right? This kind of black or white thinking that everything it is how it is today. That's just not the truth. We've seen it with the pandemic. We've seen it with life, that things can change for the better, for the worst. They're going to change, but we try to make the most of it. And that is where you can work on improving your quality of life and being with other people where we can work on this connection and just be in a place from empowering yourself, advocating for yourself. If one of the medical professionals that you're working with isn't doing it for you, isn't working well with you, isn't listening to you, advocate. Learn how to speak up for yourself. Be empowered. This is your life. Nobody's going to do it for you. You have to make that choice. So before we open up for questions and answers, I just want to kind of give a review. I love this quote: pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional, right? That quality of life. And we can learn how to celebrate life, how to take advantage of the things that we can, even when they look different. And even when it's not 100%, right? We're going to be down with pain. Okay. But there'll be times that we're not. And so grab the life that you do have and enjoy the life that you do have. We learned here today that there's a difference between surviving and thriving. I want all of you to thrive, not just survive, because that's where your life is. We don't get a second go at this. We only get one life. And even when it's kind of sucky or really sucky, we need that help. We need that connection. So know that your mental health, your emotional health is critical. If you are at your wit's end with depression or any of these things, please, please seek immediate help. It is okay. There is no stigma. it is necessary, right? And you're not a failure that you can't just automatically handle it. It's normal. This is something very different than what what I say, what the average bear has to deal with. And so of course it's unique. And so we need to take unique tactics and reach out and get the help that we do need. So you learned some little bits and pieces about how to tame your pain. There's obviously a lot more. You're free to stay and listen to the Q&A, and also follow me on social media for tips and things like that. But here's the thing, it's your life. You have a choice. And you don't have a choice about the illness part, but you do have a choice on how you're going to handle it and how you're going to attack it. And that's where I have learned that the term I use, being fiercely resilient, it's not just about resilient. It is about, you have to go after it. You have to make the effort to choose it, to choose to do the work of healing, and to make your life more of what you want it to be. When I lost everything, I thought I lost everything. But the truth is the best part of my life has come from that. I now don't have to hide my illness. My illness, my greatest weakness, my greatest thorn in my side, has become my greatest power. People come to me now because of my weakness, because of what I've been through. In the corporate world, I had to hide that because it was a liability. Now it's my strength. And so this concept of post-traumatic growth, leveraging our strengths and making a better way, living more authentically, and taking hold of your life, because again, nobody is going to come and save you. You have to take those first steps. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. It's been a joy here. I'm an honor to serve ICA. They have helped me so incredibly much through all of my years with all of their resources and the research that they are doing, and advocating for us in Washington. So much that they do that helps us. And so I am just happy to be of service, from a place of gratitude. And I hope that you all are fiercely resilient and can tame your pain and live fiercely.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Tasha, for that great session about mental health. I see a lot of you have been active in the chat and also in using the Q&A to send us your questions, and we encourage you to continue to do that. We have just about 10 minutes left in the session, and we will just sort of tackle the Q&A, and then we can run through what's coming through the chat. Okay, so Tasha, first question, what is the, I'm sorry, I'm actually looking at the wrong list here. What do you do when your family doesn't believe you about all of the illnesses? It really does affect mental health.
Absolutely, right? There is so much shame and disbelief around invisible illnesses, right? I get it all the time. Well, you look fine. My favorite response is, well, you don't look like a doctor, but just to have some humor in there. And it's important that you just learn to stand in your truth and address your own mental health when somebody doesn't believe you, because you can't control what somebody else will or won't do. But if you are solid in where you are about your illness and what you can and can't do about your illness, then they will either come or go. And when it's family, it's really hard. I know it is stressful. But I think the bigger thing is people want to see us doing something about our illness and not just being a victim. That's where a lot of the judgment and shame comes in, when they perceive that we are doing that, which isn't always the truth. But I think that's a good first step for that question.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have another person who wrote in and talked about the fact that they have acute anxiety that they know is partly due to their IC, but both their primary doctor and their psychiatrists are not seeing that connection and have put them on antipsychotic meds. Is there anything you can suggest to help them get their doctors to see this connection?
Yes. So you want to be working with doctors who understand the connection, and it is cyclical. IC causes anxiety. Anxiety makes our IC worse. And so that's that cycle that I was talking about in the webinar. And so some people, if your anxiety is really high or your depression is really low, you may need medication temporarily. That is okay. That can be part of your journey. But your system is either upregulated or a little too downregulated. And so the medication might help you to calm your system down, which will then improve your physical aspect. And then that allows you to bring down your anxiety. Also, please be doing the mental health work. Therapy is work. Changing your mindset, working with a chronic illness coach, right, is it's a lot of work to change what's the programming that's up in here. So doing that work also in addition to any medication, or ideally before, is an important aspect no matter what.
Great, thank you. Okay, we have another person asking for the best resource for finding a therapist to see for chronic pain.
Yes. So I think the biggest thing, because this is exactly why I became a therapist, because I searched for years to try to find somebody who really understood me. So what I've learned is that you can interview therapists. There's a site called Psychology Today where you can do searches for chronic illness specialists. But you want to make sure that you interview 2 or 3 therapists, you feel comfortable with them, and you talk to them and you make sure that they truly understand chronic illness, because some of the book trained people don't really give you what you need as far as transformation. And then the same thing with coaches, right? There's a lot of people who are not trained and they're just calling themselves coaches, which is, I guess, okay. But you want to know that who you are working with is well-versed in chronic illness. They have training, they have clinical experience, they know what they're doing, because otherwise it can just cause more distress.
Okay, great. Thank you. Next question is about family members and how IC is very stressful on family members. Is there anything you can share about that?
Yes. So caregiver fatigue, compassion fatigue is very, very real. Their stress is real because they care and love about you. So this is where I talk about, right, like putting together a healing team and making sure that you are keeping family and friends as family and friends. They are not your therapist. They are not your doctor. They will do as much as they can, but it's important that you get this team around you, and then they can be what they truly are, right? Because what I find most often is that people are expecting their family and their friends, their immediate people, to be their doctor, their therapist, to be all of that. And it's just impossible. And so it makes that person just feel overwhelmed and then get burned out, and then you're not getting the help you need. So again, put your healing team together, get all the proper people in their places, and then that will reduce some of the stress, and then plan for times to give them breaks.
Okay, great. Thank you. Do you have any knowledge about low energy shockwave therapy that you can share with our people today?
Yes, absolutely. So I have several clients who have chronic illness, and they are simultaneously doing TMS, low energy shockwave. It's been successful for most people, not all people. So it's definitely something to speak with your psychiatrist about, but it can help with severe depression.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, can you talk a little bit about holistic pain strategies to cope?
Yes. So what I believe and what I have found in my journey is exactly this concept that I talked about earlier, is having an integrated whole being, mind, body, spirit, soul, holistic, whole person answer, because our doctors seem to see us as siloed in different body parts. And so wanting a holistic part starts with us again, looking at, okay, what are all my pieces? Where do I need help with my mind, body, spirit, soul? Putting in the right providers for that, and absolutely using the mind body connection to do as much of the healing and the heavy lifting. Because if I'm stuck in catastrophizing and ruminating and depression and anxiety, my system cannot heal. It literally cannot heal. If I'm in one of those stress responses, one of the 5Fs, then my cellular level cannot heal. So it starts with the mental health, which is why I advocate for this, because if from day one, we were getting all the mental health support and the tools and the skills to learn how to deal with life with chronic illness, because this is new to us, then it would avoid a lot of the suffering and it would avoid the escalation of pain.
That's a great point. We've had a couple of other comments in the chat that I was wondering if you might be able to address. Someone mentioned, what if the doctor says you're always going to be like this? How do you handle something like that?
Advocate, or be empowered. B, potentially find a new provider, right? Because you want a provider who is forging forward. And there are some situations where we're going to be like this, but then they should be providing you other alternatives to work with. Again, creating a more full, holistic healing team. And sometimes we need to fire our providers. There's unfortunately a lot of bad providers out there. So the ICA has a great provider list. Check that out.
Yes, and Charlene in the chat agrees with you. I think she mentioned fire them.
Yes.
Right as you were talking.
Yes.
Okay, and then one other question, how do we advocate? How do we advocate for ourselves?
So learning to advocate is first believing in yourself and learning to stand in your truth, and that your voice is important. And your truth and your reality is your reality. Now, again, if you haven't done the kind of the healing part of learning new skills so that you don't slip into black and white thinking, catastrophizing, ruminating, spinning, we can all do that, then it's going to be harder. But you want to have that part in place, and you want to be also addressing any of the medical stuff too at the same time, because it's, like I said, it's like an untangled necklace, and every time we fix one thing, right, you fix your piriformis, then there's there's the sciatica, and then there's all these other things. So we want to make sure that we are working to get the right answers from the right providers. So a primary care is not going to be able to answer the same way that a urogynecologist is going to be able to answer, and the same thing with like a pain management. So it's going to need all these different pieces, which is why I love the AUA guidelines, because it really does walk you through. I wish it was a little bit more user-friendly and detailed through of like, here are all the different things. But over the 16 years, man, I've seen so many providers fired a lot, and learned that my voice and nobody knows what's going on inside your own body better than you. And if something truly, truly feels off, then you need to find something until you do it. Because sometimes I've had tests don't show things and this and that, and then later on we figure out, a year later after all these things, it's this other thing. But also making sure that we're controlling our mental status during that time.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we have reached the end of our time. I will, before we close though, I did see one last question come in about whether or not Tasha has her own website. Do you want to share that with us before we close?
Yes, I would love to. So I have two websites. One is I do provide therapy inside California. So anybody in California, that's Healing Point Counseling. And my other one, because therapists can coach, but coaches can't do therapy. They are not trained. And so I have all the training of therapy. I figured out all the ways that I can apply that to coaching. And so that's my fiercelyresilient.com. If you have downloaded the workbook that goes deeper into this webinar, there's also a link in there that you can join for free, the Fierce Warriors Club, get some tips and tricks straight into your inbox every month. And I also have group coaching and other courses and events that are there that are available all throughout the United States and anywhere in the world.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Tasha. We appreciate you coming and speaking with us today on this important topic of mental health. We appreciate all of you who joined us today. Thank you for sticking with us as we work through some of our technical difficulties. And we will be in touch with you with a follow-up email. We'll include a lot of links that we shared in the presentation and that Tasha just mentioned. And look for that in the coming days, as well as a link to the recording. So thank you again, everybody, and have a great IC Awareness Month, and hope we see you at future events happening later on in this month. Take care. Bye-bye.